Do you know what it feels like when your heart says yes, but your own country says no? Imagine standing at the altar of your dreams, with the one you love right in front of you, and suddenly, the law itself tells you this wedding cannot happen. That's what I faced when my own parliament banned my marriage. At first, it felt unbelievable. I kept asking myself, how can something so personal, so private, be controlled by politicians sitting in tall chairs? One member stood and pointed at me. Do you understand what this decision means for our nation? His words weren't just a question. They were a warning. I could feel hundreds of eyes piercing through me, some filled with anger, others with curiosity, and a few with hidden sympathy. And then came the shocking part. A law was read out loud. A law I never even knew existed. A law that clearly stated, it wasn't just about my marriage anymore. It had turned into a battle of power between those who wanted control and those who wanted freedom. I kept asking myself, why are they so afraid of love? Was it because she was not from their world? Was it because I chose my heart over their rules? Or was it because my decision exposed the truth, that their authority was built on fear? First time I heard about the ban, it wasn't from a friend, not even from my partner. It came as a public announcement. A law was suddenly passed, with my life hidden inside it. I was sitting in my room when the news flashed across the screen. Certain marriages are prohibited due to political and cultural concerns. My heart froze. I knew instantly it was about me. But here's the question that kept people whispering. Why me? Why was my marriage seen as such a threat that it needed to be banned by a parliament of hundreds? Was it because of the family I came from, or the family my partner belonged to? Was it because the people feared losing power, or because they feared love that didn't fit their system? The mystery only deepened, and the whispers only grew louder. And that's where the story twists even further. Because what the parliament didn't realize was that the more they tried to hide the truth, the more people wanted to know. Every ban turned into a headline. Every headline turned into a storm. And soon the question echoed in every corner of the nation. Why are they so afraid of this marriage? Some said it was politics. Others believed it was tradition. A few even claimed it was about protecting history. But deep down, I knew it was about control. They feared what would happen if my love story became a reality. Because sometimes one marriage can change the face of an entire country. And here's where you need to pause and ask yourself, if your government told you that the person you love is forbidden, would you obey or would you resist? That's the choice I had to make. The parliament didn't just stop me from marrying, they turned my personal happiness into a national debate. Papers were filled with arguments. Leaders fought with each other. Citizens started protesting. But in the middle of all that noise, I was just a person who wanted to hold the hand of the one I loved. Do you see the irony? They called it protecting the nation. But all it did was break two hearts. And yet, even in that pain, I found strength, because every time they said no, I felt the courage to ask why. Every law they passed against me became a question they couldn't answer. And that's why I'm telling you this story, because the truth is still unfolding. The parliament may have banned my marriage, but they could not ban the love that lives inside me. And one day, that truth will stand taller than every law written against it. But the question remains, how far will they go to keep us apart? And how far am I willing to go to fight back? The first time I walked into that grand hall filled with the members of parliament, I thought they would listen to me with fairness. At least that's what I hoped. But the moment my request for marriage approval was brought up, the air shifted. Some looked shocked, some whispered among themselves, and a few shook their heads before I even spoke. It felt like the decision had already been made, without hearing my side of the story. That silence in the room carried more weight than any loud rejection could. I stood there, holding on to courage, reminding myself that love should not need permission from so many strangers. Yet each person seated in that chamber seemed more focused on the rules, the traditions, and the reputation of the nation, rather than the happiness of two people. They whispered about how this marriage could set a new precedent, how it could open doors for others who would demand the same freedom. Their fear was not about me or the person I loved. It was about control, and control in that room was more valuable to them than my heart. One of the senior members finally spoke. His voice was calm, but his words cut deep. He said, "This union is not only personal, it is political, and politics cannot bend for emotion." Hearing that made my chest tighten, because what he called emotion, I called life. They treated my love like a policy that could be approved or denied, as if happiness was a matter of votes. I wanted to protest right there, but I also knew that if I spoke with too much fire, they would twist my words against me. So instead, I asked a question that echoed through the chamber. If I cannot choose the person who makes my soul complete? And here's where the twist deepens. What shocked me most was not their rejection, but the reason they whispered behind closed doors. They believed that if I married freely, others would begin questioning their own boundaries. They feared the ripple effect more than the marriage itself. I realized then that my love had become a threat to their structure. And this is why they banned it. Not because of who I was, not even because of who I loved, but because it shook the walls of a system they didn't want to crumble. And the truth is, once love starts breaking barriers, control is never enough to hold it back. People expected me to defend myself, but I stayed silent, because I knew if I spoke too soon, they would twist my words. But then one voice stood up in my favor. It was not a politician, not a leader. It was a citizen, someone from the public gallery, shouting, "Why can't he choose his own partner?" That one sentence shook the whole. And here's the twist. Instead of silencing him, the guards hesitated, because many others began murmuring the same thought. Why can't he marry who he loves? The whispers became louder, and the politicians suddenly realized the nation was listening. But the parliament tried to act tougher. They pulled out old documents, showing traditions and rules that had been followed for centuries. They said, breaking these rules could weaken the country's honor. Now pause for a moment and think. If your happiness was treated like a national threat, would you give up love to protect the system, or would you fight back, even if it meant standing alone? That question haunted me. Every sleepless night felt like a battle between duty and love, between what the world expected and what my heart needed. And just when I thought I was ready to accept defeat, a secret file landed on my desk. No name, no signature, just a sealed envelope. Inside were records proving that many leaders in history had secretly broken the same traditions. They too had chosen love over law, but the truth was buried. So why was my case treated differently? Why did they want to make an example out of me? That mystery was bigger than just marriage. It was about power, control, and fear. The more I read, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about me or my partner. It was about a fight between freedom and control, between honesty and hypocrisy. And I knew if I revealed what was inside that file, the entire parliament would be exposed. But it could also cost me everything. So, should I stay silent and keep my love hidden, or should I risk everything to uncover the truth? Imagine sitting in a huge hall, filled with serious faces, every seat taken, papers rustling, voices echoing off the walls, and in the center, my name written boldly across the agenda. This wasn't just a meeting. It felt like a trial. The members of parliament leaned forward, as if they were about to decide not only my future, but the future of the entire country. No marriage shall be permitted if it brings potential harm to national traditions. That one sentence changed everything. My love story was suddenly labeled a risk, as if it had the power to destroy centuries of history. But here's where it gets even more interesting. I noticed not everyone agreed. Some whispered quietly, shaking their heads. Others slammed their hands on the desks in anger. And then, something happened that nobody expected. A letter was brought in, sealed with the national stamp. The moment it was opened, silence filled the hall. Every single person stopped moving. The contents of that letter held the weight of my entire future. Why was it so powerful that even the strictest voices went quiet? And could it be the one thing that finally decided whether I could marry the woman I love or lose her forever?